The 1998 Bell Trans Tongaland Off-Road Challenge took place between Pongola and Shishlui in northern KwaZulu-Natal on Saturday the 25th of July. The fifth of the 8-leg national off-road series, the 1998 Bell Trans Tongaland Challenge, is regarded as the ultimate challenge in off-road racing, says race organizer Louise Trefui.
First of all, I must say Bell equipment are unbelievable. They've been involved since the beginning, and better people you cannot have to back you up. The locals, the Nkosis, the Indunas, the people themselves. Competitors last year said it was unbelievable how good the people are, showing them the road. We have situations sometimes where they show them on the wrong tracks at some of the other races, but really these people are unbelievable. Very hospitable, helpful, really enjoy the racing.
We're starting the race again this year like we started last year with the aircraft. The aircraft will be coming down the runway, and as soon as it gets close to the cars, we'll switch the landing lights on. You'll pull up, go over the cars. The race is on. The cars start at 7 o'clock. The quads start at 7:30, also the same start. And the most fantastic start is obviously the motorcycles. There's approximately, I think there's about 140 motorcycle entries so far. That is absolutely fantastic. This whole valley echoes for half an hour until they get over the mountain at Ubombo. That is absolutely spectacular.
When they start off, they've got very fast, hard red dirt, obviously up the mountain first of all, then into the Aponsi area where they've got the red clay pack type. After the first 62 k's, they get into sandy tracks, which gradually progress into sandier, thicker sand, into cut lines. They've got water crossings. It's just, they go into sugarcane. It's a variation of every type of terrain that you could get within one event.
An exciting event, and one of the competitors with me, Kenny Scholthammer. Kenny, welcome. There's a problem already before the race is even underway. What's that about?
This is RP Reinicke. While they were warming up the dips, they jacked the car up and they found that the front-wheel drive wasn't working. So looks like they're going to be competing in two-wheel drive.
That's not going to make it easy. We'll see more of that a little later on. An unusual start, but also a delayed start to the event. Why was that?
Very unusual for off-road racing for a delayed start. There was a lot of mist in the mountains, and there were some organisers that had been pre-running the event and actually got stuck up in the mist, so it was a little bit dangerous. That's hence the delay.
Okay, so we're looking at a 1-hour delay, but eventually with, as I say, an unusual start, the landing lights are switched on and all the cars take off together. Now, this is also a very unusual way of doing things.
It's a fantastic way of doing it. The start of a race, everybody's on an equal footing. They seed you basically on points for the season, wherever you are in the championships, and the quickest competitors are first into the turn.
Okay, this is caters for production vehicles, quads, bikes and special vehicles. It's now in its second race as a national. It's 510 kilometers long, and we're looking at all the entrants being on the track at the same time, as it were, aren't we?
Well, this is actually the motor vehicles. There are various categories of motor vehicles, and the quads will start half an hour after these guys, and then the motorcycles another half an hour after them.
Now, they experience racing all over, on tar roads, through the centre of Mkuze, dirt roads, up mountains, sandy tracks, elephant trails, dense bush, water crossings. Is the start very important?
Most definitely. Here you'll see the guys jockeying for position, a couple of guys stepping out of the actual track. It makes a big difference. This is unfortunately is the Pajero team, the Paris-Dakar team of Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak. They had a clutch explode at the end of the runway.
Now, we've got a lot of big names here, a lot of people to look out for. Who are we actually watching? Who are we looking out for?
This is Shamir Beriawa and Bix Carolyn. Bix is navigating for the first time for a long time. It'll be interesting to see how these guys do. Okay, this is getting into the mountain section just after the start. It's very, very interesting. They've got through the mist. This looks like Richard Schilling, closely followed by RP Reinicke and Richard Carolyn. The terrain here is really rocky and mountainous, but you'll see how it varies later on. It really gets into thick sand.
Okay, now we move back to the runway again, to the quads. Always an interesting category. The plane comes over yet again, and the quads will start off together.
It looks like Vickers van Deventer has got the whole shot. He's our hero from the Paris-Dakar. But this weekend he's really going to have his work cut out. I see there's a lot of guys competing, and guys are interested in going to Dakar this year. So it's become, the sport has really got such a following, and it's actually come to the fore.
Where are most of the competitors coming from to compete in this event?
The guys, they spread all around the country. Vickers is a farmer. The Breckels are from Johannesburg. They've got a refrigeration business. And then we've got a lot of guys from Natal. There's a huge following in Natal.
Okay, so here they are. The quads have moved down to the same area we just saw the production vehicles on, into the mountainous terrain.
Yeah, at this stage the guys are basically jockeying for positions, trying to get out with a dust-free environment. That really does get dusty later on, and while it's very technical and difficult early on in the morning, the guys try and sort out the sort of positions for the day.
At the actual start on the runway and down through the road, they were picking up some massive speeds. And speaking of speed, this is where you're going to see the acceleration come to the fore as the bikes kick off with some really hefty acceleration. You'll even notice at times our helicopter camera battling to keep up with the speed that the bikes are attaining.
Yeah, these bikes probably get up to about 170 kilometers an hour. On rough terrain, that's really quick. The bikes that Alfie campaigned in the Dakar does about 195.
Now on the bikes, you're looking at an advantage on the 4-strokes as opposed to the 2-strokes because of refueling.
Yeah, the modern 4-strokes are incredible motorcycles. They only weigh about 15 kilograms more than the 2-strokes, with the same horsepower and the same suspension. So these guys will miss out on every second fuel stop. So they do have a little bit of an advantage, except you've got guys like Alfie and Errol Dalton on 2-strokes, and they really are superior.
What size bikes are they riding?
They're riding 500 cc's, but the 250s in this type of terrain are just as quick as the 500s. So it really depends on the guy's preference and the category that he's entered into for the national championship.
So we've got most of the big names competing in this event.
Oh yeah, all the big names will be there. There you can see there's a crash. Guys obviously jockeying for positions and bumping and boring like a motocross start. And somebody's gone down, but they'll be back and going again. There you see Alfie. Here you can see the speeds that these guys actually achieved. They're riding on blind terrain. It's a mountain pass. It really is incredible what they're doing.
The Moroccan star, Alfie Cox.
Yeah, but he's got his work cut out. There are some really, Daryl Curtis, there's a couple of good guys, Graham McLaughlin. I can't mention them all, but they really are nipping on his heels. And these guys, it's a pecking order, and eventually they're going to knock Alfie off his perch.
Still looking at the difficult places that they've got to go through, though. This is a very crucial area. This is the first refueling stop. This is, as we were saying just a moment ago, where the 4-strokes on the bikes, as far as they're concerned, where the 4-strokes lead the 2-strokes because of less refueling. Notice the locals that are all jumping in to help, and it's almost like watching the pit stops at the Formula 1 Grand Prix.
Yes, it is. You'll see there's assistance from all sides. You just got to make sure that when you do leave the pits, you've got all your gloves and your goggles on, because things tend to get lost there sometimes. Alfie's very quick, he's very efficient in the fuel stops. He's been doing this for many years. He knows exactly what has to be done.
Okay, well, there's the route guide, so you can get an idea of where the competitors are and where they're traveling to. As I say, we're looking at a total distance of 510 kilometers, roughly 200 to 250 entries. Back now to the fuel stop.
This is the first of the motorcycles. These guys really are. They get hyped up. You can't drop your fuel cap down in the sand, otherwise it's going to delay you by a couple of minutes cleaning it up. And you just got to make sure you don't spill fuel on your body or onto your goggles.
Do the competitors supply their own fuel, or each bottle is numbered?
Yeah, they supply their own fuel, and it gets taken out by the race organizers on trucks. You'll see there the numbers are. And you just got to, as you arrive, you spot your tank, you fill it up as quickly as possible, and you get back into the route.
And there are officials there keeping their eye on it all the time, obviously.
Oh yes, most definitely. These guys, you'll see, they have to cut their motors for safety, and then they're off on their bikes again.
Okay, we move on to a totally different terrain now. Back to the Spider-type vehicles. These vehicles usually excel in this kind of competition.
Yeah, these are American-designed vehicles. This is the father and son combination of the Chepex, and that's Richard Carolyn, all in race cars. Ex-USA vehicles, very proven in the desert of the United States, and it is basically the ideal vehicle to be campaigning in. It's got unlimited suspension. These guys are running Porsche engines.
Now we're talking about a DSP stop here. Do you want to explain to us a little bit about that?
It's a designated service point. They have two of these in the Tongaland, where the service crews can get out there and they're allowed to work on the vehicles. They're not allowed any other outside assistance apart from at the service points. So if they do have problems and their service crew does happen to come across them, either at a road crossing or whatever, they can't assist them. very important in our off-road racing. It's basically to level the playing fields so that the manufacturers or the big mega butt competitors can't have an advantage.
That seems very fair. Who are we watching there?
That's Marius Bahrain, and that's Tom Smith. These are also American-based vehicles. These are Mighty Mags. And originally they came out with Yamaha 350 Banshee motors, the same motors as the quads have, but these guys have uprated them and they've put a VW motor Golf in.
There's an overtaking session coming up here. Just watch how this is done, because it's so different to any kind of motor racing event. This only happens in off-road, where you drive along behind your competitor, you decide that it is now time to overtake him, so you just take a quick right turn off the road, through the bush, and you're in the lead.
Yeah, you really have to have your wits about you. It's anticipation, and as quickly as possible you'll see Tom will get back onto the track. There are quite a few tree stumps and lurkers out there, rocks, anthills, so you want to keep as much to the track as possible.
Is it a battle to stay on the road?
The speeds are quite excessive, so yes, sometimes it is, but the suspension accommodates it.
Okay, what are we looking at now?
This is just after the Marshall Point. They're going into the service area, and yeah, the leader on the road at this stage is the Chipek, father and son. There they go. They've left the pits already.
Does this mean that their service crew is working more efficiently?
They're professionals, these guys. They know what they're doing. At this stage, they're leading the championship.
So the father and son combination leading the championship. We're watching the 1998 Beltrans Tongaland Off-Road Challenge between Pongola and Shishlui in northern KwaZulu-Natal. What are we looking at now, Kenny?
This is Richard Carolyn. He's at present going second, but you'll see how he manages to keep his car at high speed on the track.
And obviously trying to keep his eye on the track as well, because with competitors in front of you, you've got dislodged items that might be on the road. You've got a lot of sand that builds up, a lot of sand that blows around.
Yeah, there are a lot of tree stumps out in it, particularly in this event, and those are quite capable of pulling the wheel off.
Okay, we've got the bikes now heading into rather thick sand there, which is difficult enough in four-wheel drive.
You'll see how easily Alfie handles this sand. That motorcycle actually stays on top of the sand, whereas the motor vehicles actually dig down. The tires are sort of submerged a couple of inches.
Sorry, Kenny, look at this. They're evading the sand because he knows it's fairly difficult. He actually pulls off into the bush. Is that a usual thing to do?
Well, in these conditions, that's the bush on the side it's a burnt scrub, it's a fire break, and it's much quicker to travel down the burnt fire break than it is in the sand. The guys are looking for every bit of assistance they can. This is Wade Perrins. It's fantastic to see. He's really come up in the racing. He's moved down to Natal, and the conditions suit his car fantastically.
Once again, getting through that thick sand.
Yeah, well, if you compare the way the motorcycle went through and how Wade's battling a little bit there, it's basically just the bikes do stay on top of the sand, as do the quads.
And here's a wrong turn. I missed it. No problem. I'll just go back and do it all over again. How is the course marked out?
What the organisers do is they take Dayglow biodegradable paint and they'll spray it onto the lulla palms or onto the tree stumps on the side of the route, and it's fantastically marked. If there aren't any tree stumps or palms or whatever, they'll put Dayglow stickers up.
Well, surely to be a competitor in an event like this, you've got to be fairly fit and you've got to have the right gear on.
Most definitely. These guys, you'll see, before you can compete, you at scrutineering, they check your equipment to make sure that you have all the correct protective clothing. And it would be crazy to go out without the right kit. But these guys, you say the fitness, yes, they practice every weekend and they spend a lot of time in the gyms.
Nice little challenge going on here between the quads.
Yeah, it's good. These guys are probably having a dice within the whole race for themselves. At this stage, these guys are the leaders of the quad category. I think the one is Mark Breckel. I can't see who the second one is.
Moving at high speeds over very rough terrain in somebody else's dust. It's definitely not an easy thing to do.
You've actually got to have a little bit of trust in the competition. You know, you're passing guys and you're using the whole road, so you do have to have trust in each other.
Okay, back to the production.